Hola, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, make sure you're subscribed, all that good stuff. In today's video, we're going to go over a Manitowoc ice machine. Now, the one I ran into was a little more difficult because it is a double evap. So it has two evaporators that are facing each other, and I need to be in front of it, or in front of the evaporator plate, to actually see all this stuff. So I'm actually working on it from the side, even though I popped off the front cover. So we got two evaporator plates, and one side I was given the bottom frame to replace because it broke basically. And on this one, the flapper is on the bottom. There is no full curtain that opens and closes, and the magnets and all that. That's what makes it kick out of harvest. So on this one, it's a little bottom flap. So when the ice falls through, it hits a little flap, and then it goes back up into the original position, and then it knows to go back into making ice, or just if it stays open, it's a full bin. So that broke. So that little flap had nowhere to go. It just fell out, and I was given the part to change it out. The reason I'm doing this video is because when I looked it up, I only saw how to replace a different section, which is, I think, the top frame part of it, which is essentially is similar, but it's a little bit different. And I wanted to show you guys actually changing one out in the field, because it was not as easy as I thought. And I'll go over some of what helped me at the end after you watch me replace it and struggle a little bit. So like I said, remember to like and subscribe. Enjoy the video. This is the Manitowoc evaporator bottom frame assembly, which is basically just the bottom piece and the gasket. And you're going to need this to seal the plastic pieces that are like welded on. Basically, you just pop them off, seal them back up, and you're good. All right, so now that we got the old one out, we're gonna do a little quick wipe down, and then run a cleaner and sanitizer. But I need to get them back up already. This is the new piece, basically the same. I don't think I'm gonna change out the gasket. They give you the gasket. The old one looked brand new as well, so I think we can skip that part because it's already on there. I just want to kind of put this in place, put the screws on. They give you new, well, I was saving them, but they give you new plastic pieces. I didn't see that. and new nuts to put them back in, plastic pieces. I saved all the old ones, but we'll change them out for the new ones, so maybe don't be worried as much, because they were falling in the back. I was like, man, if it falls out the drain, I'm screwed. All right, so easy, not so easy. I'll kind of go over it a little bit because I couldn't talk there. I was trying to get out of their way. They were already opened. They're about to hit their lunch rush, so I'm not gonna, you know, take the time to film and talk on everything because they're even like pushing me out of the way. So that's our drive-through ice machine. Pretty simple in general, just a bit of a hassle. That silicone, it's a silicone rubber. They give you a whole tube, even though you need like just 4 drops. So I will keep that, but I wiped everything down to put it back together, and that rubber silicone requires an hour to cure. So just gonna follow, you know, manufacturer, what they want to do, and I will take a lunch break, and then I'll bring you guys back. We'll start up the ice machine and just run a quick clean on it, just whatever we can to clean it out, flush it out, sanitize it, and then let them use it because they're without ice right now. People get upset about their ice, and I'll let it run a few batches, and then we'll finish out the day there. It's just, you know, time consuming. Ooh, it is hot. Thankfully, I'm working indoors, but I kind of just breezed through the rest of it because I had to, you know, clean it out, get everything in place. That drain pan, or the water reservoir, the drain, not the drain pan, but like where it holds the water. I'm like blanking out right now. But that whole pan there, you know, earlier I was able to move it to access everything. And if you need to completely remove it, you would just move the water pump and the sensor. I've done it before for something. It's probably to do the water sensor or something like that, where I had to actually remove that pan. So if you need to, you're gonna have to remove it. If not, I just let it plop down. There was no ice in the bin, so there was no issue with that. Plopped it down, let the water fall out, drain out, and then got my screwdriver in there, which I was looking for the sockets, and actually when I came back I had them just in case, but these are not going to fit because they are since they're double-sided, the other side is too long. I'll see if I have a socket that maybe would have worked, but then again, you run into the issue of how much space you got there. So the only sockets I had were the Klein Connect sockets, which those are way too thick to even try. Well, I did try them. They were too thick to use. Then I thought of these, but I didn't have them on me, or I didn't have the right size on me. But that's why you always need a dedicated set of different things. So I have a dedicated open-ended wrenches box set, and then I have dedicated nut drivers. You can get Klein, whatever you want. I know I've said this a bunch of times, but I've had my tools stolen. So then my tools that they've been beat up, they still work. They're Harbor Freight tools. So those nut drivers are from Harbor Freight, I believe, Pittsburgh, whatever that brand is. So I just never had a reason to upgrade them because I don't use them on a daily basis. They're more to get me out of a pinch, which I have what do you call it? A wheeler from Vito Pro Pack that has, like I said, every size wrench, every size nut driver, and things that are dedicated for certain things. Whereas in my everyday bag, I have like these multi-bit flip sockets. I have these wrenches that are like 8-in-1s. They're all closed, though they're not open-ended, and you know, things like that. So thankfully, I mean, like I said, you gotta have that. You gotta have the right tools, and a dedicated nut driver has gotten me out of a pinch so many times. And I needed specifically, those are 11/32. The only reason I knew that, because I can't see, the stupid evaporators are, you know, right there. I was squeezing my arms in. I got plenty of cuts before I could figure out what to do. I had seen a Manitowoc video, and they specified on another area, which was the top of, you know, if you had to repair any of the top part of it, that those are 11/32 screws, so, or nuts. So I'm like, it has to be the same on the bottom. So I took those out. And yeah, the only reason I'm doing this video is because when I looked up, like I said, I looked up some Manitowoc videos, and they're directly from them on their YouTube channel. And they only showed you how to replace like I think it was a top frame. I didn't see how to replace the bottom frame, but common sense is like, okay, it's probably the same process. So just in case, showed mine, and I'm going to show you, explain a little bit more when I get out of here. I got to go pick up a compressor for tomorrow. I got some I didn't even check. I think I need some R290, and I gotta pick up some other parts and stuff like that. So I'm gonna go back to the office, explain a few things, and then kind of show you what worked for me, because you might have better luck if the evaporator is facing you, if it's a single plate evaporator. But on these dual plates, I was going in there blind, and a lot of this stuff, the area was just big enough for like the nut and bolt. That's why I had a hard time fitting any of my sockets in there. I was able to work around them for the most part. They were cool about it, but I hate working on the drive-through ice machines, and this one has had a ton of issues, as you could see. I'll try to explain all that stuff too. I just had to make sure when I put everything back together that all our screws were there, because these customers on commercial kitchens, refrigeration equipment, they're going to be messing with it. Even she was like, we have to put the screw in and this and that. And I'm like, I will put a set of screws. I went and got some new screws out of my I brought my screw set, my tough belt box, And I was like, I'm gonna put some screws in, because if we don't have the right screws in, like the original spots, because I think there's been some drilled into it. I was like, if I don't get the screws in those original spots, that's what causes that frame to pop out, pop up. It's bent, it's beat up. That's the equipment that I see. So let me get out of here, and I'll explain a little bit. Okay, so we did a follow-up. We checked on it, and it started making ice perfectly fine after that. It did struggle. One of my guys checked it, and they said it did it again, but there was a small leak on the service port. So we tightened it with my the torque setting. There's a torque setting on those Schrader cores when you guys are looking at the service ports. I have a tool by JB. You go in there and it clicks. You can tighten it until it clicks, and it's set to that torque setting. After I did that, I didn't see any more leaks. We added a little bit of refrigerant just to help it out, but by that time, after it ran a while, the ice was coming out fine. There was no issue. Or like it was like a second difference. So that might be a whole other thing. We'll keep an eye on it, do a leak check. I did a quick one. I didn't see anything. And you know, we'll go from there. Essentially, I had a little bit of an issue just with the space. So, and the other thing is that unit has to be, let me check real quick. Okay, I checked because now I geotag every equipment. And even if I'm not recording, I will take pictures and stuff like that. So that unit was installed 4 years ago. It's a 4-year-old unit, top and bottom. It's a remote condenser on the rooftop. But if you don't do, I've tried to tell this to my customers, if you don't do maintenance, they age quickly. So that unit looked pretty rough, just being 4 years old. So like everything's new. The only old thing is the bin, which is the soda machine. I mean, you can't change that out. So with that being said, a lot of the stuff is beat up. It's restaurant work. Restaurants are notorious for beating up their equipment, and you know, which leads to us doing repairs and stuff like that. So I was given the flapper, and well, not the flapper. The flapper was changed out as well, but we needed to change out the frame to get everything working. So it has a new flapper and a frame. I was given the frame to do because one of my guys didn't know how, or wasn't sure how to do it. So I went in there and kind of figured it out. It wasn't much to it. The only thing is that it's always good to have 30 seconds. I know some people are like, oh, you know, they don't use it. We see it on condenser motors quite often, right? The RTUs, or even the split systems, they usually have 30 seconds nuts on, or that's what's holding them to the frame. I see it every so often in refrigeration, and it's just so happened that the nuts that hold the bottom together are 30 seconds. But the part that I was putting in, that's basically the opening you have. You have 4 of these bolts and nuts, and you have the 4 openings. Nothing fits in there. So I have a Klein socket set that I have, did not fit. That's usually what my go-to now. I try to downsize, so that's usually my go-to. Did not fit. It was not going to get through there. And then I have the Klein flip bits as well. Now, it kind of did fit, but because it's double-sided and it's 3/8 on the other side, it wasn't going to fit all the way in. So that didn't work. And then I had a nut driver, which obviously will fit. It's the slimmest thing you can do is if you get a dedicated nut driver, it should fit in most areas you need it to. So that's why I like to have a set, but I have it in another bag. I had just taken out that dedicated 30 seconds, and I went to go to the van because I had it there, and I got it in, and I was like, screw it, let me just try it. And I was able to tilt the pan down. It's already kind of messed up, but I pulled it forward and tilted it down. There was no ice in there, so it gave me a good angle, and I was able to get most of the screws out. The only one I had difficulty with was the one that was closest to me, because the bin was still there, and it's barely fit. Got it through. Not that big of a deal. Trying to reach and not drop all these things. You know, I'm in there, and it's a double evaporator, so I only have so much space to squeeze my arms in there. I was getting cut up and stuff like that. But yeah, that's what worked. And then putting the nuts back on the bolts was not easy as well. I actually had to get the 11/32 nut on my finger and kind of hold it in place. And the thing is just as wide. The opening is only as wide as my finger. So I got it in there, and with my other hand or my thumb, I had to give it a couple of turns, or like I was basically scratching it with my nail. So give it a couple of turns so that it would kind of grab, so I can go get the nut driver and drive it in. Because putting it in the nut driver and trying to give enough force to push up and screw it in, for the life of me, I could not do it. I think I did it on one, and I could not get any of the other ones to catch. I just didn't have the right angle. And then, trying to squeeze in there, I don't have much force going up. So, like, I was there for a good while trying to get those back on. I feel like everything that we do, it's always the simple things that go wrong. So, like, it's not going to be the refrigeration cycle. It's not going to be anything with a major part. It's not going to be, anything figuring it out, whatever, troubleshooting. It's never any of that. It's always the last screw, the last nut, bolt, whatever it is, that just does not want to go on. So I had those issues. So like I said, I had to put it in and hold it up with my finger, kind of screw it in, or start it with my nail, so that I got at least one turn on there. And then I went back in with the nut driver, and that finally worked. I did it for the rest of them, and I got it in, put everything back into place, and then tested it out. I found out that I had the pan a little bit too forward. I had to push it back more, put everything in place. It's missing thumb screws. It's missing a few things. So, try to get it in as best as I could. Turned it back on, cleaned everything, sanitized. It's filthy. It is what it is. They don't want to do maintenance, but cleaned it as best as I could. And then turned it back on. Made ice, did fine. The only thing is one side wasn't dropping as good. So in that instance, like I said, we checked it further. The only thing I had was a small leak on the port. Took care of that, topped it off. But even before topping it off, it started working on its own. So I don't know what that was. As far as like unscrewing everything, and then the little plastic pieces, those you have to physically pry out. All I did was put my precision screwdriver in there. I gave it a couple of taps and wedged a little bit, and then once I got that, I just kind of twisted and pulled down, and they came out pretty easy. I had a few of them fly out, so just make sure you keep an eye on that, or catch them if you can. And the same thing with when you take out the nuts, because you don't want to lose that, especially if there is ice in there and people are getting ice. Which, for any ice machine repair, you should probably shut it down. And we try to, as best as we can, throw out the ice, all that stuff, clean it afterwards and all that. But yeah, just be careful, because I thought I had to keep them. I didn't open the entire bag yet. And then I go in and open up the part, and then like it had all the new clips and or plastic pieces and everything. So you do get all that new, but I wanted to keep the old ones just in case. And I could have reused them, honestly. So they were in good shape. So prying them out wasn't that hard. It was getting the screws and bolts back in, or the nuts on the bolts, that sucked. So yeah, the rubber silicone takes an hour to cure. That's what they say. So I put it in, told the customer I'll be back in an hour, got that squared away. Then we could finish putting it back together. And yeah, Manitowoc, I've had to replace the flappers, the curtains, the frames, like that hold these things in place. And it's because it's plastic. They're bound to break. Especially on units that have been worked on before, you're constantly having to bend these plastic pieces to get stuff out and put them back in. So it just happens. So hopefully this was helpful if you guys are working on any ice machines. I know it's very niche. There's not that many that like to work on ice machines. But I didn't see this on Manitowoc's page. They go over a lot of good stuff, but this is just my field work on doing one. Bottom evap frame replacement. And hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff. See you guys.